President Goodluck Jonathan leaves Abuja for Accra, Ghana to attend the 47th Ordinary Session of Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government.
Northern States Governors Forum says it is poised to reposition itself and to confront challenges of underdevelopment, poverty and insecurity in the region.
A Nigerian woman reminds incoming administration of the APC of its election campaign promise on gender equality.
Taxation as a veritable tool of sources of revenue for economic development in focus.
The effect of the fall in global oil prices on the economy is beginning to manifest in some states in the country. Now, the downward slide of the economy because of the dwindling fortunes from oil have impacted negatively on the economy of some states in Nigeria.
While within the past few months, some state governments have been unable to meet their obligations. Now, this has resulted in pockets of protests here and there over, in particular, unpaid salaries.
Indeed, Kingsley, some states have even gone to the extent of declaring bankruptcy. And the reason for that is quite simple. Only a few states like Lagos, for instance, have been able to think out of the box for solutions to its developmental challenges. Now, unlike Lagos State and a few others which have effectively deployed tax administration as a developmental tool, many states still depend solely on revenue from the federal allocation.
Well, in many advanced, if not nearly all advanced countries, taxation is a sure way of generating revenue in order to run the business of government. Well, unfortunately, in developing economies such as ours, we are yet to effectively deploy tax administration as a source of generating the required revenue for development purposes. Now, even where we have moved on this parameter, many consider it somewhat exploitative rather than being targeted at generating revenue for the purposes of bringing about development.
Indeed, Kingsley, and taxation simply aims at raising revenue to finance government expenditure, redistribution of wealth and income to promote the welfare and equality of citizens, and of course, regulation of the economy, thereby creating the enabling environment for business to thrive. Now, the Nigerian tax system has undergone significant changes in recent times. The tax laws are consistently being reviewed with a view of repealing obsolete provisions and simplifying the main ones.
Well, under current Nigerian law, certainly there is a distinction usually made by the law with regard to the power to impose tax and also the authority to collect tax. But whatever, all three tiers of government are involved in tax administration. That is to say, the federal, state, and local governments, and each of them, of course, has its sphere of influence clearly spelled out in the required manifestation, in the required piece of legislation for this purpose. Now, it's also common knowledge that a good number of states are unable to break even in terms of their finances, and this is due to the huge shortfall in their IGR. IGR standing for internally generated revenue. But states like Lagos have been able to of course, keep afloat. And a recent report indicated that in 2014, Lagos was generating some 23 billion naira as IGR every month.
All right, Kingsley, what will be the impact of tax administration on government revenue in Nigeria? Now, what is the capacity of the nation's tax administration to reduce tax evasion? And how can the subnational governments, that is, of course, talking about the state and local governments, generate their own internal revenue to, of course, conduct the business of governance in their respective states? Now, this will be the talking points, some of the talking points we will be focusing on in our conversation today on tax administration in Nigeria. I am Claire Delabu Abdul Razak. Once again, it's pleasure is always ours having you join us. Kingsley.
Well, Claire, well, thanks. You raised the point about tax evasion. Tax evasion is, of course, a criminal offense under our statutes. But on the other hand, tax avoidance is not a criminal offense. It means that you take a look at the provisions of the particular tax legislation and then take advantage of for your purpose. That's what's called tax avoidance. But tax evasion means that you avoid paying tax even when even when you've been assessed and you know that taxation, you have the incidence of taxation. So that's a criminal offense. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I join Claire welcoming you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, which has been broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. In the course of the program, we have our regular segments of the business, foreign, and others. Of course, we'll have a newspaper review. That is usually after the business package. Claire, who takes the news this morning? All
right. This morning, we'll be joining Rhoda Obo in our news studios, and she'll be bringing us, of course, latest development from and around the world. Rhoda, do you pay your tax?
Of course, I can't. Of course, I do. It's compulsory. Of course, it's already deducted from my salary before it gets to me.
Did I take you by surprise?
No, not at all. But then, because it's already deducted before it gets to me, okay, I don't have a choice.
The pay as you go thing, right? Pay as you earn thing. All right, brother. Let's have the news now.
Thank you, Claire. Hello there. Good morning. Warm welcome. As always, it's good to have you join us here on the news desk. President Goodluck Jonathan will leave Abuja today to attend the 47th ordinary session of ECOWAS Authority Heads of State and Government in Accra, Ghana. The summit, which coincides with the 40th anniversary of ECOWAS, will receive reports on the current situation in Burkina Faso and Guinea-Bissau, as well as deliberate on issues of democratic consolidation, regional peace and stability. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ruben Abati, indicates that the President will be accompanied by top government officials. Now, peace and security trade will be the center of discussions as lawmakers from across Africa converge on the Midland Center in Johannesburg, South Africa, for another exhaustive session of the Pan-African Parliament. National Assembly correspondent Ifeanyi Okafor reports that parliamentarians in the continent are seeking to forge partnership to foster Africa's growth. In the meantime, the Northern States Governors Forum says it is poised to reposition itself and chart a common front that will confront the challenges of underdevelopment, poverty and insecurity in its areas. This was an aftermath of the confirmation of a new leadership headed by Borno State Governor Alhaji Kashim Shettima, with governors of Kogi and Kano as vice chairman.
Leadership will ensure what the Christians refer to as born again, so that the sense of unity and the need for unity will override any other sectional or individual interest.
I want to assure my colleagues and the good people that we shall strive as a team, as a family, to confront our common challenges, irrespective of differences in political affiliations, religious persuasions, sectional or tribal backgrounds.
Nigerian women under the auspices of Women in Politics Forum is reminding the incoming APC administration of its promises during the 2015 election campaigns with regards to gender equality. This was at a media briefing in Abuja.
The president, the APC government, to support their commitment to us, come out fully to say, look, we made this commitment during our campaigns and this is the time to live up to it. And I'm sure if we have women head the parliament, we are going to have serious development coming into the country.
The need for continuous reappraisal of the military as methods of intelligence gathering in order to rise to the demands of the 21st century security and challenges. This was brought to the fore at the 2015 Conference of Deputy Defense Attaché and Librarians Training organized by Defense Intelligence Agency in Abuja.
Interactive session will form a vital part of the agency's feedback to government. We regard to repositioning our efforts to combating contemporary security challenges.
Now, the Nigerian Army has assured the International Committee of the Red Cross that all casualties in counter-insurgency operations will continue to receive equal treatment. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima, represented by the Chief of Policy and Plans, Major General Ugo Buzugbe, gave the assurance when the President's International Committee of the Red Cross, Peter Umar, visited the Army headquarters.
That we maintain humanitarian laws.
We stand here ready to work with you through some of those difficulties. This needs and makes necessary regular and structured access to detention facilities.
Now, President Goodluck Jonathan has approved the appointment of Mrs. Uju Aisha Hassan Baba as the new Executive Secretary, Chief Executive of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIP. Mrs. Hassan Baba takes over from Mrs. Saratu Umar, who has been relieved of her appointment as Executive Secretary, Chief Executive of Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission with immediate effect. The new Executive Secretary, Chief Executive, has served previously as Director General, Legal and Aid Council of Nigeria, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Anambra State, and Director, Legal Service, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. A statement from Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Reuben Abati, says President Goodluck Jonathan thanked the former Chief Executive, Mrs. Umar, for her services and wished her well in future endeavors. Solid minerals exploration in Nigeria receives a boost with the first real bidding of the nation's mining asset. This book center stage at the public and opening for the concession of Ririwe mining area located.
This process cannot be abused because the investor is bringing in money immediately. And if he brings in money immediately, he will make sure that he quickly starts exploitation to get back his money, and therefore there will be development. In fact, this process is the most common process in all countries in the world at the moment.
We are going to provide a lot of employment for Nigerians as a preferred bidder to that mines. And apart from employment, there are other opportunities that also will come up. We're also giving opportunities to people to supply us with raw materials as well.
The police headquarters has paraded 11 out of 109 persons believed to be members of a deadly cult in Edo State. Also, the governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, visited the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, to complain formally that his state has been invaded by kidnappers.
Let it be restated that Nigerian police will deploy all non-legal means to rid a society of crime. In so doing, and as the law is not a respecter of persons, no suspect, no matter how highly placed, will be spared.
And that report concludes the news this morning. It's back to Kingsley and Claire for the continuation of Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much there, Rhoda Albo, for the news. Claire, I was surprised you didn't ask when I first paid tax. You know, it's...
No, I know you pay your tax religiously, so I did it.
When you first pay your tax, will be an indication of when you had your first employment. And by the way, just to let you know that in the past, grade level 4 used to be 100 naira per month. And the tax incidence was 1 naira 50 kobo. So your take home was 98 naira 50 kobo. So when you get home, do some more homework.
What was that? So that of course, Kingsley, then the value of the naira, of course, was much appreciable.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I would just say that you were certain that if you were on level 4, I think it was step 1 or step 2, 100 naira a month, less 1 naira 50 kobo, 98 naira 50 kobo, that was your take home, and it was sufficient. And the level of crime was much less. This is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. We're taking a short break now. When we return, it will be time for the business package.
Do you know that you are exposed to up to 100 illness-causing germs every day?
I encourage my kids to learn new things, and if they get hurt, I rely on my Dettol to fight germs. It's like my own first aid kit.
My family needs protection from germs. My Dettol disinfects surfaces and clothes, keeping them clean and safe from germs.
A hectic lifestyle or overeating can cause a burning pain in your chest. That's hunger. Take Gaviscon. One dose relieves in 3 minutes to soothe the pain of heartburn. It goes straight to the source to work for hours, providing long-lasting relief.
That's why I recommend Gaviscon.
I recommend Gaviscon.
Gaviscon, fast relief you can actually feel.
If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor.
Once upon a time, all you needed to attain the right altitude was the right attitude. But today, you need more than attitude. You need aptitude. Aptitude is knowing there's an app to keep you on top of everything from music, news, fashion, football, to education, worship, business, and everything in between. Simply download an app and you won't be typing www. anymore. Just click and click for faster and smarter access to whatever you want on the internet. And now with the MTN free app download month, you can download as many apps as you want free for 1 month.
Simply text APP to 131 to get started. Valid from May 1st to May 31st, 2015. Aptitude is the new attitude.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
All right. Kingsley, Rhoda asked you a question earlier on while we were upset. She wanted to know what year you earned 100 naira and had to spend 1 naira 50 kobo.
No. I didn't say that that I earned 100 naira. I was saying that there was a time in this country where if you were on level 4, the monthly take-home was 100 naira. And the tax, that's the pay as you earn, was 1 naira 50 kobo.
What year was that?
So that, just hang on a second, so that your take-home was now 98 naira 50 kobo. And I also gave you the assignment. I said, when you get back home, ask questions, and then you'll get to know some more.
I know somebody, in fact, I just heard Kayode, the director, telling us that he also had 53 naira, as his salary. And he, of course, he got some beddings and, of course, made some other purchases, domestic things, and had some change left.
That's correct. But it probably was on the private sector. I'm talking about if you, at the time, if you were the public service at the state level, that was the take home. 98 naira 50 kobo. I remember that very clearly.
Thank God for you. All right. Let's get on now with some business news. And Leah Katun Babatunde has been trailing the business news trending in her report. And in it, she says federal government is making a case for innovative ways to generate revenue as falling oil prices continue to impact on global economy. And also, she's telling us that the Nigerian Stock Exchange end Monday in the green. So here is Leah Katun Babatunde.
Hello and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria Business News. With the continuous decline in oil prices eating deep into the income of the nation, only 282 billion naira was received in April, an amount which was not recorded
is we have the Union. We have the Union newspaper, and its lead story says fuel scarcity. Marketers, tanker owners withdraw services. That's there on the front page. Also on the front page, we have a story on the business section that says states' financial woes worsen. That's on page 37. There are other stories, of course, inside the paper. Page 4, for instance, of the Union. Failed senators and reps begin to vacate offices. That's the much we're taking in the meantime from the papers. We'll go over to Bayo Atobi for a discuss of the stories. Bayo.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Let's start with the story read about the president-elect's anger. The president-elect Muhammadu Buhari says his administration will concentrate on 3 areas, and these are insecurity, the economy, unemployment, and corruption. The president-elect, while receiving a delegation of Arewa Consultative Forum, says the incapacitation of the military has become embarrassing to the extent that they cannot secure 14 of the 774 local government areas of Nigeria and had to depend on foreign mercenaries. He said, we will need insecurity in the board. On governance, he said his admin will ensure that Nigeria live within their honest earnings. A situation where people live above their earnings will not be tolerated. Arewa Consultative Forum also lamented the level of collapse of moral values, high corruption, crime, and impoverishment of citizenry. They said that Nigerians voted for the president-elect because of their conviction in him of his integrity, transparency, and accountability. The Arewa Consultative Forum was led by Alhaji Ibrahim Kumasi, former Inspector General of Police. A 36-year-old woman, Miriam, freed from insurgents' captivity, says that female suicide bombers, after being brainwashed, are adorned with IEDs, covered with hijab, and they are prayed over, giving assurance that God has forgiven them before they set out on his mission. Miriam, who was quoted by the New York Times, also said that she stumbled on the Chibok girls at Goza Hospital. He said, in fact, the insurgents tended to give the Chibok girls a special status. So far there are information coming about Chibok girls in the special camp in Sambisa and also at a later date somewhere in Goza. So those are the kind of information that will help those who are trying to track them. Kingsley, earlier on you read the story about kidnapping in Ekiti State. The Academic Staff Union of University of Ekiti State have demonstrated and have protested the kidnap of 5 of their colleagues. In fact, they have threatened to embark on a 5-day after a 5-day ultimatum to embark on an indefinite strike. 2 of their colleagues have been released on the assurance that they will go and fetch 210 million, the ransom money, for the rescue of their 3 other colleagues. Governor Ayodele Fayose had to report to the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, for an SOS. And the Inspector General of Police promised Ekiti indigents that he is setting up a special rapid response squad that will rid Ekiti State of kidnapping and let them go about their economic activities peacefully. Vice President Namadi Sambo and his wife Hajia Amina have said, we pray that all we have offended during the period will forgive, and we forgive those who may have offended us. This was at a validatory meeting with supporting staff of the Vice President at the Abuja House. And he said, we shall always be there for you because we worked diligently together and you have become one family. The Vice President said, whether in government or out of government, he will continue to contribute to development of Nigeria. Hajia Amina also stressed and thanked, on behalf of Sambo family, thank all those that they work with, and he said they will be forever grateful for their support, encouragement, and prayers. 5 police officers supporting a faction of youth who were fighting over ticketing at Oliha Market in Benin have been arrested. They were accosted by the IG Special Squad against cultism, and when they were searched, they found 4 cut gun to size and 2 shotguns in their convoy. they have been arrested. 11 other alleged to be cult kingpins are soon to be prosecuted. 98 others were also arrested at an initiation ceremony at Federal Polytechnic, Auchi. Nigeria's Governors Forum, that peer review platform of state governors that split in May 2013, has apparently mended its fences. The chairmanship election, in which Governor Rotimi Amechi was reported to have scored 19, while Governor Jonah Jang scored 16, divided the forum. At a reconciliation meeting, Governor Jang sent in an apology that he will be absent, and that was an indication that he was in support of whatever reason, decisions they will reach. It was said that the governors agreed to the May 2013 election results, which saw Governor Amechi as chairman. However, the meeting was initiated by the Northern Governors Forum, who earlier on had also held a meeting. In the meeting, Kashim Shettima, governor of Borno State, was elected the chairman of the Governors Forum, with the governor-elect of Kano State, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, as the vice chairman. If on May 20th and 25th, residents of Abuja hear artillery gunshots fired in succession, they should not be alarmed. This is part of the rehearsals of the Command of Brigade of Guards for the presidential inauguration. Major General Charles Ezocha, the Assistant Public Relations Officer for Guards Brigade, says that there will be rehearsal on 20th and 25th, and as a prelude to the inauguration of the Commander-in-Chief on May 29th. So particularly those who are used to taking onto the social media whenever they hear any alarm, there shouldn't be any speculation. You may recall that not quite too long ago, there were some skirmishes within the SSS headquarters with some insurgents, and already the social media was rife with speculations about threats. Embattled President Pierre Nkurunziza has sacked 3 ministers. He sacked the Minister for Defense, Minister for Foreign Affairs, and Minister for Trade. However, protesters are still on the street and they continue to protest. And they say that they will continue their protest until he ceases to pursue his third term bid. There's expected to be a presidential election on June 16th in Burundi. Meanwhile, in Democratic Republic of Congo, President Joseph Kabila, who succeeded his assassinated father in 2001, is also contemplating a third term bid. There's a litany of rulers in Africa which tends to give a worry. Theodore Obiang Nguema Mbasogu of Equatorial Guinea and Eduardo dos Santos of Angola have been in power for 36 years. Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe has been there for 35. Paul Biya of Cameroon, 33 years. Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, 29. Umar al-Bashir, 26 years. Idris Deby of Chad, 25 years. Isaias Afewerki of Eritrea, 22 years. Yahya Jammeh of Gambia, 21 years. Dennis Sassou Nguesso, 18 years. It may be recalled that even in Nigeria, the proponents of third term in 2003 were even supporting the argument that President Hosni Mubarak, who was in power, while our president then was in power as a military leader, was still in power. So there was nothing wrong with him getting a third term.
That's right. Hosni Mubarak, of course, came to power following the assassination of Anwar Sadat in 1981. Yes. But we saw what happened with the Arab Spring. Just a story that we couldn't take from the foreign pages. This happened in Waco, Texas. A gang of bikers, had a bus stop, and 9 persons were shot dead. Usually, they can be very rough. This gang of bikers, yes. And then, of course, it was at a shopping complex in Waco. Of course, Waco was on the news over 20 years ago following the incident involving the Branch Davidian. It was a religious sect, and the U.S. authorities had to dislodge them. Of course, there were fatalities. They used armor tanks to blow up the place of worship where they had holed up and tried to create some uncomfortable situation. That was in 1993, I believe, Branch Davidian. Bayo Atoyebi, I would like to thank you for being with us on the program this morning.
Thank you for always having me.
Okay.
Right, we'll take in a short break. When we come back, we'll start off with our discussion for today. Don't forget, we're looking at the issue of effective task administration in Nigeria.
The body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man? Cool combines Dettol's protection with added menthol to protect from germs. Cool gives you maximum protection against germs every day from head to toes and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
Dettol. Be 100% sure.
What happened? It was a mosquito. Oh! Daddy, here!
What's happening here?
Mama, mosquitoes!
I sprayed, but the mosquitoes aren't dying.
No longer, because I've bought Motain Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Motain Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
Deal, the best price I can get. That's why I shop on Jumia. Quality you can trust. You can count on us. When you shop on Jumia, what the radio shop.
The Infinix Zero, now available at 23,900 Naira at jumia.com.ng. Jumia, the online shop you can trust.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Now, taxation is a function of law, and the power to impose and collect taxes is one of the incidents of sovereignty. And tax administration, of course, includes assessment, collection, enforcement, and litigation. Here is Salihu Abdullahi with this background report on the effectiveness of tax administration in Nigeria as a prelude to our conversation this morning.
Tax is the stipulated amount of money paid by an individual as required by the Constitution to the government, which is in turn used as complement into government covers to boost its productivity across key sectors of human lives. Tax in any developing nation like Nigeria is the major source of revenue, as well as a physical instrument through which government generates income to execute programs and policies. Income tax in Nigeria is very important because it is one of the major sources of revenue of Nigeria, affecting both the federal, state, and local governments. Tax experts say provided by the government. Recently, the Minister of State for Finance, Bashiru Yuguda, announced that the harmonized tax level for the country has been approved to take care of the issue of double taxation and other inadequacies militating against the Nigerian tax policy. He noted that to achieve the desired growth that will propel development, there is the need to raise Nigerian tax to a level of 20% tax to the GDP.
That across the country we are having issues of double taxation, illegal roadblocks, there's no policy in some of the states, and the various challenges that we're all having in the tax administration and regime in the country. So a committee was set up to harmonize, headed by the Minister of Finance, of course with all the Attorney Generals and major stakeholders, and there will be harmonized tax across the country. You will agree with me, part of the problem we are having is the rules at the national and then the subnational level of government when it comes to tax administration in this country.
Stakeholders have, however, warned that this and the obvious trend for raising tax by Nigerian federating units to improve internally generated revenue should not jeopardize tenets of international wake of dwindling oil prices. Stakeholders say government must articulate policy measures that will help fashion out a competitive tax regime for the country that will make governments at all levels be independent in whatever circumstance, especially now that there is a global call for diversification of the economy.
Okay, thank you very much there, Salihu, for that background report. And to begin this conversation this morning, I'd like to introduce two guests from our studios here in Abuja. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Sunday Samuel Ogungbeson. Mr. Ogungbeson is the acting executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and then we also have with us Mr. Kirian Onwuzurike. Mr. Onwuzurike is a financial analyst and a tax consultant. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Okay, Claire, we have another guest.
All right, yes, Kingsley, we have from our Lagos network studio, we have joining us the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Dr. Teju Shomorin. Thank you very much, Dr. Teju. Let's people, should I say Nigerians generally, view tax administration with one eye, something like, hey, what are they going to do next? Hey, what is happening? That kind of feeling, we generally shrug when we hear the issue of taxation and all that. And I'm sure you do remember that the first major incident involving women, nude women, took place in protest against tax imposition. Why do we generally have this negative feeling, that tax is usually exploitative?
Generally, taxpayers, they don't like to part with their money. People like to have more money into their pockets rather than departing with any money from their pockets. So the issue of protest against tax, payment of tax, is all over the world. People generally, they don't like to pay tax. But when you reason that if you pay tax, there'll be sufficient revenue for government to provide all the laudable services that government has to provide, you will generally want to pay tax. But people, they don't like to pay tax because they don't like to part with their money. And even some that pay, they don't pay enough tax. They look for other forms of devices in order to cut corners, as people say, so that instead of, if you have to pay 5,000 naira, for example, as tax, they'll try as much as possible to evade tax so that they pay what is less that they ought to pay. Generally, people, they don't like to pay tax. That is one thing we have to understand. But on the part of government, government should try as much as possible to make sure that tax revenue is used judiciously so that taxpayers, they can see what the money is used for. So by the time taxpayers see what government has been able to do with the tax revenue, I'm sure a lot of people, they will change their culture of not wanting to pay tax to that of voluntary compliance.
Okay, well, Dr. Teju Shomori, thank you. But just to further explore the angle of individual or almost social-cultural resistance to payment of taxes, Claire earlier referred to the Aba Women's Riot of 1929. Growing up, I always heard it said that women don't pay taxes. It appeared to be a cultural thing that women don't pay taxes. Has there been a carryover of this, cultural attitude that women don't pay taxes?
I don't agree with that statement. It is not. That statement is not true. Whether somebody is a woman or a man, there is no provision in the law that says that a woman should not pay tax or that a woman should pay less tax than a man. A taxpayer is a taxpayer. The tax laws does not discriminate between a female taxpayer and a male taxpayer. What the law recognizes is a taxpayer. And in fact, the technical word in tax laws, what we normally find there is a person. A person can mean an individual taxpayer, it can mean business, it can mean company, it can mean a company limited by guarantee, or company, it uses person. There's nowhere in the tax laws where you find woman taxpayer or female taxpayer. So the assertion that a woman does not like to pay tax, I don't agree with that, because those that are civil servants or public servants, whether you are a man or woman, the same method of deduction of tax applies to you. And that method of deduction of tax is called payee, pay as you earn, like a withholding tax system. Before you get your salary or your income, government will have actually deducted what is due to you. So there's no hiding place whether you're a man or a woman. The Aba riot, that was a long time ago. They tried as much as possible in the 50s to ensure that women were, exempted from tax, but, it didn't work. So right now, all over the world, whether you're a woman or a man, you have to pay tax, provided you have income. The only thing that can exempt you from payments of tax is whereby you don't have an income, you are just a housewife, you don't receive income from anywhere, you don't have any rental income, you don't have income from investment, maybe you have shares and you are receiving investment income by way of dividends, or you're having interest from banks. All those ones are taxable. So there's no law that says that a woman should not pay tax, or that a woman should pay tax that is less than that of a male.
I just wanted to, make a clarification. I referenced the fact that when we were growing up, the perception was that women in Benin or in the Edo-speaking area, called Ihuhu, and never saw the tax collector going after women. That this was, quite some way back. Of course, you are talking about formal employment and formal sources of income, which, of course, will be captured by the relevant tax statutes. I needed to make that clarification, but your explanation also suffices. Let's come to the acting chairman now.
Mr. Ogungbeso. Mr. Ogungbeso, you heard Dr. Shomori make a distinction between compliance, which presupposes that there must be coerced compliance, false compliance. But when you draw a line between developmental tax?
Yeah, thank you. In any tax system, three things together. The law is very, very critical. You understand that? The policy, very important. Administration. It's the interaction of the three together that makes a very good tax system. But you see, in some tax jurisdiction, the policy is good, the law is weak, and then you find the tax administration too is an aberration. The three don't work together, and you cannot have a very good tax system in such a situation. The Committee of Nigerian Tax System in 2002 actually identified that problem. They were looking for a document that pulls together how Nigeria is going, but they couldn't find it. That was when they then recommended that there should be a policy document. Let's feel the trust of wherever we're going. You will know that even when you introduce, whether it is 5% or 10% VAT rate, or you reduce the rate of corporate income taxation, this is what is driving it. Is that trust we cannot see. But you just find loose sheets of papers saying this is what we'll do today, that's what we'll do tomorrow. Now,
sorry, make this distinction clearer. What is the difference between, of course, in general definition, tax administration will include the appropriate statute and so on and so forth, but you're making a distinction now, tax laws, tax policy, and tax administration. What is the difference between tax statute and tax policy?
Now, let me clarify further. Each of these legs is driven from different areas. For example, the policy, tax policy, is driven by the Ministry of Finance. The taxman's job is just to collect. So you do not expect, oftentimes people ask us, oh, Gungbe, Vice Chairman, what do you think about an increase in VAT rate or in tax rate? It's not my remit. It's the person who has responsibility for policy direction. And that's what they do in the Ministry of Finance. For example, FRS is involved in treaty negotiation today, but in some jurisdiction, it is principally the function of the Ministry of Finance. That's where you get it right. But if you don't have the skills, then you can expect the outcome you will get. Okay, so for the policy, it is championed by the Ministry of Finance or the Treasury anywhere in the world.
And it's a fiscal instrument.
It is, yes.
Okay.
So
and then the Assembly. That's
at the National Assembly.
That's right.
Yeah, that's. You also have the judiciary. They also have a role to play. But we haven't tied judiciary to the law, to the National Assembly. Oftentimes when we make that reference. But for us, the tax administration, our remit is principally implement this law. That's all. If there is a problem in the implementation, Ministry of Finance will be aware, because taxpayers will also report back to the ministry and say, this policy, it doesn't speak sense. Then that's when you bring back the taxman and say, let's talk together. And I mentioned earlier on, is the interaction of the three that will produce a good, vibrant tax system.
Do you think that administration has been effective?
Well, this is 21st century, and I'll tell you, ask our taxpayers. They will tell you the milestones we have achieved in recent times. But I often say you know, the chairman FRS doubles as the chairman joint tax board. Nigeria has a different fiscal arrangement, unlike what you have in some developed countries. Here we have 37 taxing authorities. You have the center and you have the 36. In fact, FCT is already driving his own administration now. You're going to have 38. In most of that countries, it's just one central tax administration. The fact that the law, the constitution today, gives power to state revenue boards, that is each state as they stand today, to run tax administration, doesn't mean we cannot work together. Before the introduction of value-added tax, you have sales tax being driven by the different states of the federation. In 5 years or 6 years of tax administration, sales tax brought in only 2.2 billion naira. But we came together, we engaged, collaborated together, that we should introduce another form of indirect tax, which was value-added tax. And the first year of that gave us how much? 8.7 billion. That's the benefit of synergy, one tax administration. Let's think about it. Let's have an agreement that says, I will help you. I have all the information about these corporate entities within the entire country. I can help you do personal income tax. Why don't you focus attention on road taxes and all other levies that the law allows you to? I give you assurance, I don't need cost of collection from you. I'll open an account for you. Every money I collect doesn't go to the center, it goes direct to you, the state. You understand? It's easy.
Mr. Ogumbeson, you've already fast forwarded to the critical segments of our conversation, namely the required synergy, with that is ordinarily should ensure better tax administration. We'll come back to this issue again of specific items, on the table for taxation and how well we can drive it, together with the issues arising from consumption tax and all manner of new labors that we are seeing with regard to what's going on. But let's connect now with Mr. Kirian Omuzuruke. Mr. Kirian Omuzuruke, you've listened to our first two guests. The conversation. I would like you, to share your with regard to the tripod that Mr. Ogumbeson mentioned earlier. Tax statute, tax policy, of course, tax policy, and statute, and then tax administration. Are we seeing the proper connection amongst these three tripods?
Yes, thank you, Kingsley. The a good tax environment has the three legs, which Mr. Samuel has talked about. Like he rightly said, there is the law, there is the policy, and there is the administration. The law has to do with National Assembly, which enacts the laws, effects amendments to the law, and then the Minister of Finance that is in charge of policy. The policy making function of the Minister of Finance most times is also or has some input from the collecting agency, the Board of Internal Revenue in the states, and then the FIRS at the federal level, and then the administration itself. What presently exists is that I think there are lapses or some challenges here and there, and that is why it does seem as if, one, the taxpayers sometimes complain. Look, not only that the collections, what was paid is not seen, or it's not managed, that is, government is not applying the tax to them effectively. Only that the angle, also have some challenges. Sometimes they complain of the behavior of the staff of the administration and all that. But as he has rightly said, a good tax system requires effective functioning of the law, appropriate law, with required amendments from time to time, because it shouldn't be static, because as the economy grows and as with dynamism in the economy, there's also need for regular review and update of the law. That has also not been the case in our environment. Secondly, good enough recently that we have a national tax policy, but whether it is all encompassing or not is a different thing. And then the administrative arm, we cannot over a long time and think we can achieve a different result. I think there is need for improvement in that arm, but by and large, there is need for effective functioning of the three arms, the tripod, which Mr. Ogunmeso has. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Omuzuruke, thank you for your perspective. Let's rejoin Dr. Shomore at Lagos Network Center. Dr. Shomore, you listen to the points articulated by Mr. Ogunmeso, that namely, we are seeing some ineffectiveness, if you like, of our tax system. Some 37 tax authorities, taxing and collecting authorities. Do you see any challenge with this?
Yes, Kingsley, what Mr. Ogunmeso said is quite in order. The synergy between tax policy, which is the first leg of the component of the tax system, there is a synergy between the three. The issue is that in tax administration, there must be reforms. Let me even system, because tax administration, you are only referring to one of the components of the tax system. So let me take the three together. In a tax system, to have a robust tax system, there is need to have tax reforms. And that was why Nigeria has gone into the issue of having tax reforms right back as far back as 1978, which was a tax reform that took us to 1991. All these tax reforms takes place because whenever government sees some holes or some weaknesses, they go for reforms. And the purpose of having all these reforms is to try as much as possible to administration. Example of 1991 tax, all revenue was dwindling, and there was need to look for alternate sources of revenue income. So the study group was set up in 1991. So one of the recommendations of the study group of that 1991 led to the introduction of VAT, which Mr. Ogunmeso tax has been a money spinner for Nigeria. So after 1991, another reform took place in 2002, and that reforms has actually strengthened the Nigerian tax system. So many imbalances, so many have been witnessed in Nigerian tax system. The reform of 2004 has actually come out to make all these imbalances have been corrected. The issue of tax evasion and tax avoidance, they are usually in all tax systems, whereby under tax evasion is because the issue of tax evasion is a deliberate breach. In the contravention of tax laws, there's a deliberate breach. People decide not to pay enough tax. They refuse to file. Where returns are filed, the refunds are not, the returns that have been filed, you cannot rely on them. Some of the taxes of tax evasion. So when you take tax evasion together, as well as tax avoidance, also the issue of multiplicity of taxes, all these issues, they weaken tax, and there is need to correct all these imbalances in the tax system. So in order to have a robust tax system, so Nigeria will continue to reforms. In fact, as we are now, Nigeria is due for another reform. In so many countries, they have tax reforms every 10 years. The last reform we had in Nigeria started in 2012 to 2004, which resulted into amendment of certain tax laws. Like, for example, Companies Income Tax Act, that was 2007, so been amended. So reform is something that we cannot run away from if you want to have a tax administration that is very strong, that is robust and viral. So when you have all these things in place, taxpayers, it will improve their level of compliance, and there'll be more revenue into the coffers of government. Thank you, Kingsley.
Right, that's Dr. Teju Shomori speaking to us from Lagos. Let's return now to Abuja here, and I'd like to speak to the tax consultant, that's Mr. Kirian Onwuzurike. Mr. Kirian Onwuzurike, if you look at what is happening now, Lagos State, for instance, in 2014, declared about over 20 billion naira, IGR. While that is so, many other states have not been able to meet, their financial obligations to their people, of course, because of the fall in the revenue from the federal allocation. Now, is it that, where do we have the disconnect? Is it with the administration? Is it with the policy? Or, of course, is it with the statute?
Okay, Claire, thank you. If you watch what is happening in Lagos, it has taken some time of planning, and over a long time they have put several machineries in place to achieve the kind of results that they have today. And let me quickly correct here that it's about 37-40 billion every month from IGR. And if you put that together in a year, you can imagine what that means. It could be more than that too, but as at the last count I checked, it was about at 8 billion a month.
No, but the official figure they gave at the press conference a couple of weeks ago was 23 billion monthly in 2014. Please proceed.
Okay. Okay. If Lagos State generates that every month, sometimes it's good that some states generate 600 million, 400 million, depending on the economic capacity of the state, of the state, the available industries, the trade available, and all that, commercial activity, level of commercial activities. But it requires a lot of planning. It requires a lot of consistent activities, commitment on the part of the administration arm of the Board of Internal Revenue in the state, and then proper education of taxpayers. You see, there are a lot of taxpayers in the tax net of Lagos State government, and there are very, very many sources of collection of revenue by Lagos State government. So effectively, they have planned over time, and every arm is working well. The laws that are applicable in Lagos State, apart from a few, are also applicable in a whole lot of other states. If you check, taxation in Nigeria is like company income tax, like PAYE, is one law, one federal law that is responsible for, that is applied, it's applicable in all the states. But you discover that in some states, the ability to collect, the willingness to collect, and sometimes after collection, the accountability is also there. It's also a challenge. Some collect and account properly, some collect, the accounting system is faulty, and all that. So that is why you see some states are doing well, some states are not doing well. Again, the willingness of the chief executive officer, the governor of the state, to say we must do ABCD. In some states, when you advise them to introduce some form of levies and taxes, business premises, they say no. We don't want to cause problems in our environment. Our people cannot pay. And so they are not prepared from beginning to increase the while in Lagos State, that is, you must pay. So that is what accounts for the differences you have between the performance of one, the BIR in one state and the other. And because of what is happening in Lagos, so many other states are beginning to change, they have some form of paradigm shift.
Okay, Mr. Onwuzurike, thank you. Of course, Lagos is the nation's economic hub. Let's return to the acting executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. You were pursuing an argument with regard to your idea, namely that it would be better, if you had a federally collectible revenue. But look, Lagos State government may well brag and say, we are doing very well. So why do we need you, to help us collect our revenue? So let's hear from you again as to your suggestion that, look, let's have a federally collectible revenue system or taxing system, and how it might work with many, if not all, the states of the federation.
Thank you. So when I hear this kind of argument that, oh, we are better than you are, I think there's a problem with that kind of reasoning. This is one country, and we are all parts of a central body. The body cannot, the parts cannot function on their own. When I talked about sales tax many years back, 1983, Lagos State was collecting sales tax, but I put everything together, and I simply came out that the first year of VAT produced 8.7 billion. Whatever, if anyone is willing to help you collect at no cost, and you can devote a lot of resources to the other taxes and levy, which is also huge. What is wrong with it? We can do business together, yes. But let me tell you, the information which is being relied upon to do all the additional assessment and the audit and what have you is kept by the FRS. Now, do you think it's fair on even businesses? You can imagine if you run a business of your own in a place like Lagos, and you have a lot of interferences by the tax from the local government, federal will come or conduct audit on you. Is that the kind of investment to build? When I said that the three of them must interact together, these are the examples I have in mind. You can do it better, yeah. When we introduced value-added tax in 1993, we picked people from the states. Say we have all the knowledge, pick people from the state's revenue board, work with the FRA, because you understand the jurisdiction very well. The terrain is yours. Let's work together as one. And that's the kind of result we're witnessing today. It's still on the table. Quebec thought that he could work on his own in Canada without going along with the people. You know, it's a French-speaking environment, and they are quite proud. But at the end of the day, they still found the benefit of synergy. When we go out to do audit, the experience within FRS is a problem. The tax auditors will do there at the local office level. You have a higher level function, which is investigation, and those ones, no barriers. The same organization. Then 3 weeks later, investigation again visits. These guys are complaining. The cost of compliance is huge. The duty of every tax administration enacting its policies to ensure that you minimize the cost of compliance for taxpayers, and for you to minimize cost of administration. That's when you can be seen to be effective. So any state can say that, oh, we're doing better today. There will always be value when you interact, collaborate, and work with other people.
What kind of taxes are you looking at with respect to this kind of collaboration?
Now, for example, as of today, FRS handles corporate taxation. That's not been devolved to any of the states. It's ours. The information it will rely upon is principally personal income taxation. But where's the information coming? You still have to work with us. When you say, no, I'm not going to work with you, I'm going to do on my own, you're causing disruption. Yeah, so you can, because of the powers you have. Remember, the personal income tax, as the consultant spoke about, is a federal law. It only says states could implement. It gave them the right and power to implement. But they don't make the laws. The center makes the law. And that's why the provision is such that at the center, the Federal Inland Revenue Service will collect taxes from individuals, residents, and those in employment at the center. Just for them to be seen to still be very, very relevant is the provision of the law. So that's why I said 37 of us. Now FCT is asking for a board of its own. They also want to collect their own personal income taxation. And they think they can do it better. But you see, if you have a very strong policy, we will speak as one. It's not about you can do it better or we can do it better. It's about having synergy, economies of scale.
I'm clear. Yes. Just to pursue this point further, I mean, one of the cardinal provisions of PITA, that's the Personal Income Tax Act, says that personal income tax is a function essentially of residency. I mean, if you reside in Lagos, I mean, that's where you pay your personal to Lagos, although Lagos has some challenges with Ogun State, because people live in Ogun and then they walk and walk in Lagos. What would you be? What is your? Let me put it this way. I mean, if I were staff, for instance, of the Lagos State government will have my data. So, what superior data would the federal authorities, FIRS, have on me in order to assess and levy tax on me?
Let me tell you, you said the Lagos State government will have information about residents in their state. Where do they get the information from? When they want to make confirmation, where is it going to come from? Is it not from the corporate entities that are there? Or except you are talking about working in the ministries in Lagos State. But personal income tax goes beyond that. There are corporate entities. For self-employed persons, no problem. Those ones are not under the FRS. But today, you see all the state government, they are all relying on personal income taxation. Payee. In fact, they expect the center to do payee for them. That is, help us hold back. But the provisions of the law is clear. You have to identify with the taxpayer. You have to know where he lives. Today, the state government don't bother about that. They only go to the federal agencies in those states and say, oh, your people are working here. Help us collect taxes from them. You don't know your taxpayers. And that's why we said, we keep the information on corporate entities, and it's the private sector that is driving this country.
All right, Mr. Gbesa, and of course, Mr. Kirian Omuzurike, and Dr. Teju Shomori, gentleman and lady, will take a short break. When we come back, Dr. Teju, I'll be coming over to you in Lagos for, of course, my next question. We'll take a short break now. This is Good Morning Nigeria, GMN.
Once upon a time, all you needed to attain the right altitude was the right attitude. But today, you need more than attitude. You need aptitude. Aptitude is knowing there's an app to keep you on top of everything from music, news, fashion, football, to education, worship, business, and everything in between. Simply download an app and you won't be typing www. anymore. Just click and click for faster and smarter access to whatever you want on the internet. And now with the MTN free app download month, you can download as many apps as you want free for 1 month.
Simply text APP to 131 to get started. Valid from May 1st to May 31st, 2015. Aptitude is the new attitude.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Yes, Hotel de Horizon has rebranded with upgrade of their facilities. Get
right, sport is here.
Okay, on to the foreign scene now. There are reports of renewed clashes in Burundi's capital, that is Bujumbura, as defiant protesters march out to voice their rejection of President Nkurunziza's bid for a third term in office. Now, the embattled president has also reshuffled his cabinet. Now, this story is and more on the foreign scene with Nnamdi Odipo.
Welcome. Burundi's President Pierre Nkurunziza has sacked 3 cabinet ministers as protests resumed after last week's failed coup. A spokesman for the president said he had dismissed his external relations and in the cabinet reshuffling in elections to next month. Nkurunziza returned after a failed coup.
It is clear that things are not going well in Burundi, and all of us want to learn if there was more that we could have done. But at the end of the day, President Nkurunziza has to put his people. The international community people privilege the end of violence for his own personal desire a third term. He has to voice. And I think the message from the international community was loud and clear, and it's a message that he has chosen not to hear.
And Iraq's government has asked Shia-led militias to prepare to deploy and fight in the Anbar province after the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group overran the provincial capital, Ramadi. Reports say that Shia-led militias have been asked by the government to lead a counter-offensive against ISIL in Ramadi. The armed group had earlier made significant gains in its battle to control Ramadi, besieging the Hamid of just a few towns and cities to remain under government control in the mainly Sunni province. Asian countries to rescue thousands of migrants adrift at sea. At least 700 Bangladeshis and Rohingyas from Myanmar were rescued off Achel last week, bringing the numbers in camp there to at least 1,500. UNHCR spokesman said the lack of rescue over the weekend was a bad sign. Aid agencies say a grave humanitarian crisis is in progress as countries in the region refuse to accept the migrants. People on the boat are severely malnourished. Survivors were running.
All right. Now on to arts and Thomas Merton once said that art enables us to find ourselves and at the same time lose ourselves. He also believes that art is a social responsibility. On arts and entertainment this morning, Ngozi Chude focuses on artists.
Good morning, it's another spotlight on art and entertainment. Thank you for joining us. And today we'll take a look at this interesting artist who says art for him is an expression of self and a responsibility to society. He also advocates a purpose-oriented art expression than self-gratification. Let's meet him.
For most lovers of artworks, fascination and intrigue in art readily capture their attention. It is believed that many are attracted by the message of the artwork, preferably embedded in an abstract piece. For 5 years, Ilo has worked on various artworks agreeably dependent on his emotion at a particular time and inspiration drawn from his environment.
I choose a way to do portrait in order to saturate the taste of my client, to make up to his or her satisfaction. But on my abstract work or conceptual work rather, I do it the way it pleases my mind, trying to portray something or my feeling or the emotion that I have in time.
With the dictates of his mind tailored in this direction, it puts into perspective mystery of colors that align to the subject's skin tone. The excellence of his work, he says, comes through with the conviction of a responsibility to the society. He believes an artist should be defined by his originality and uniqueness, expressive through his emotion, and consequently deriving a sense of joy. Quite a number of art pieces to his credit. When asked which has been his favorite, he says,
"Try have to take a more better, than the one that you have created." So if I should tell you, I would say that my favorite work, one that I will still paint on.
This is true. Don't ever be satisfied with mediocrity. Rather, pursue excellence. This is it. Let this be our cue for today, and you have a lovely day.
All right, let's check out the weather for the rest.
Good morning. Good to have you again on today's weather segment. A cloudy morning with partly cloudy conditions are expected over the northern region and cloudiness in the central states to the coast, while localized thunderstorms are probable in the southwest region of the country. And as the day progresses into the afternoon and evening hours, the cloudiness in the northwestern region to the coastal cities is expected to give way to localized thunderstorms and localized showers over the southwest coast. And of course, north is expected to remain partly cloudy to cloudy. Now let's see what the temperatures have for us today. And that's it from us today.
You want to okay, go ahead.
No,
all right.
The weather is all right.
All right.
It rained last night.
Yes, indeed. That was Amara Joyce Ichom, weather woman from the Weather Center. We thank you. And that rounds off our program this morning. Good morning, Nigeria, for today. We thank you for watching. And from me and the rest of the crew here in Abuja,
Kingsley Osadolo, I also join Claire in thanking you for being with us today. Don't forget the program returns tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning. In the meantime, you have a lovely day.